Good evening and welcome to Critical Thoughts. Today is January 6th. I'm your host, Braxton Smith, and joining me is Jake Bird. Today we're going to talk about last year. Just about missed that window, I suppose, but better late than never. We came up with a list. Remember last year we did the top 3 trials and tribulations, each of us from our own perspective of the previous year. So this year we're doing it on 2017, and in the whole process of it, it kind of gave me something to think about. I was talking with Jake, and we're trying to make up this list, and immediately you just start thinking about the last 3 things that happened in the last 3 months or so, if you have that attention span. And I was thinking silly things like net neutrality, for example, like. Here we are 2 months into that now, and somehow we still have internet. I don't know. It's crazy. But the fact of the matter is that almost ended up on that discussion, and it's so minute. It's just white noise. It's like, in 1984 is always a good reference. I'm always referencing that. They just keep overloading people with all this information. Anymore, it's so rare that anybody would hardly make it to the end of this video, because it's much easier to just read the headlines. It's fast paced. People want instant gratification, and what happens with that is you get so overloaded with information you forget the stuff that's important. And so we take this moment at the end of every year, or beginning of a year, however you want to look at it, to reflect on the previous year. And so we came up with a list. We had to do a lot of digging, and it's interesting too. We aren't the only ones that do it. There's a lot of news sources that capitalize on the fact that all we pay attention to is the last 30 minutes, and they basically narrate to you. They rewrite history. They narrate to you what the biggest moments of that year was, and it's always to their narrative. In this case, I like to think that we don't really have a narrative other than giving you the simple truth of the matter, the important things that actually mattered from last year, and things we need to remember going forward when we make decisions, have these discussions, etc. And so, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and start with my first. I don't know. Will we start with triumphs or tribulations?
I guess we could try ending on a high note. How about that?
Good call. Yeah. Okay. So. I'm going to go in hard with this one, and maybe hard right, one might say, or alt-right even. Fake news, I said it there. I think that was one of the biggest tribulations of this year. I genuinely do. There was so much from both sides. There's just so much bullshit, for lack of a better word, really, in the media. You had, recently, looking at the white noise, I can give you a perfect example. The CNN and Huffington Post all talking about Melania Trump decides to murder tree and uproot it that's been there for 200 years, and they leave out all the details, like the important details. They just want you to read the headlines that Melania Trump wants to kill all trees, especially the historic ones, and they don't tell you the little details, like, well, the tree's been dead for 50 years now and it's been propped up and now it's a hazard. Somebody's got to pull a trigger. Somebody's got to make the edgy decision to remove that dangerous tree, and she did it, folks. Meanwhile, we're still dropping bombs in Iraq, but don't worry about that. So for me, fake news takes the cake.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of moments like that, and especially with Trump, it always seems like it helps them skirt some real issues, like, the whole Muslim ban thing. Was it unconstitutional? No. Was it against all Muslims? No. But was it really an effective security strategy? Because can you really devise a security plan that can keep out ideologies? Not really. But if you want to talk about whether or not that's effective, or is there really any between thought crimes and whatever the current immigration policy is from war-torn nations, let's have that discussion, but, let's not just throw out racism and unconstitutionality and shit like that. Let's have the talk. Let's really get into it. And, just the whole idea of them getting obsessed with his Twitter account is just laughable to me, because 140 characters or less does not a executive policy make.
Yeah, but does it really take 140 characters to show the character of someone? I mean, do you really need more than that when somebody's drinking 12 diet sodas a day? It doesn't take over 140 characters to convey that and let people know how terrible of a person Trump is. So, what was yours? What was your tribulation?
I'll go ahead and start out with a personal one. Last February was the farewell concert for Black Sabbath. They're done. They're throwing it in. Never going to happen again so far.
At the cost of losing all 6 people in our fan base, I thought they were gone a long time ago, actually. But, I mean, what is it? Ozzy's still the lead singer, right?
Yeah.
I'm just okay. I would have figured his brain melted a long time ago. Okay, that's new. I guess that had something to do with him cheating on his old lady or something. Getting caught cheating on his old lady. All right, that was random. Congratulations on bringing that one up. You got me beat. I'm not going to come up with anyone that random. This one's actually pretty heavy, though. I got another one. And I'm probably going to catch flack for this too, but to me, it's maybe I'm being a conspiracy theorist, but the repeated assassination attempts on our politicians, namely Rand Paul, the champion of freedom in D.C. right now. We had 2 incidents this year, actually, and I talked to my friends, and most people don't even know about either one because there's so much freaking white noise. There's so much Donald Trump drinking diet sodas conversations going on. But maybe you all already forgot about the Bernie Sanders supporters storming the baseball field up in Yankee Land, opening fire with an AR, and actually managing to hit a few Republicans. And Rand Paul was in the midst of all that and was actually receiving some of that fire, only to later, a few months later, be tackled off his lawnmower and nearly beaten to death by his next door neighbor. So there's like a lot of crazy stuff coming on, especially from the left. I don't know. I hope the pendulum doesn't keep swinging and building up momentum, but that was definitely, to me, that was one of the biggest tribulations of 2017.
Yeah, that kind of segues into mine, just the terrorist attacks in general, both home and abroad. 2017, London paid a lot of blood this year, whether it was trucks or, they're having right now an increased incidence of people riding mopeds and throwing acid in people's faces. So, there's that, along with the Bernie Sanders supporter. There was the car incident with the Charleston protests and the various different, how would we call it, incursions between
encouragings
between Black Lives Matter protesters and just kind of social justice warrior protesters in general, along with rising kind of white nationalists and other groups mixed in together in Boston and Charleston and other places. And it's just, part of it is sure probably the media hyper focusing on these events because it gets them more sales and stuff. But, and then of course there was the Las Vegas shooting. And what else there? I think there was one in Texas too.
Yeah, the church shooting. Yeah.
It's just, it's a sad thing to see that happen at any point.
And that brings me to my third one, which is the increase in cultural unrest, not only here but abroad. We've been seeing more and more people from Eastern cultures flooding into lands of Western cultures, And it kind of cracks me up about the left, how they're just like expecting, everyone to sit around a campfire and sing Kumbaya. But it's like you have two people of totally different backgrounds, and you're mixing them all in together. You can't do that without expecting some kind of violence, some kind of pushback, because they just don't jive together. Western and Eastern cultures mix like oil and water. I mean, in separate lands, we get along great, but you start putting us next door to each other, and there's just so many misunderstandings that we're going to have with each other. And, America has set a damn good example, regardless of what the media might tell you. It's set a damn good example of how good multiculturalism can be, but just understand that there's a lot of pains or tribulations along the way, if you will. I'm kind of stuck on that word tonight. I don't know what that's all about. But it's a lot of pains and along the way, and a lot of growth towards maintaining that harmony, that balance, and that understanding between people of different ethnic, racial, and cultural backgrounds. So I think that has a lot to do between that, and then, like you said, the media is just so inflammatory with everything they say. Is just incendiary and getting people thinking that Donald Trump's going to start nuclear war with North Korea unless somebody assassinates him, and now you have people talking about assassinating him. And I mean, it's only a matter of time before something does happen. We've already had several incidents where this has happened, and it's just from the media just hyping people up, getting them all worked up about nothing, pitting us against each other. So that's my third and final tribulation. Now, there you go. I pass the buck.
Well, I think we both share it when it comes to the whole cultural scenarios right now. But since you touch more like on the immigration thing, I'll touch more on some more of the philosophical issues for me, also pertaining to the information and stuff. It's just like we're really starting to see this war between like objectivity, rationality, and science and logic on one side, and then emotions, intuitions, personal perspectives, and subjectivity on the other side. And, it's hard to tell what's going to happen because we need both in order to function in this world. But when you're trying to say that there can be things like a feminist biology or
biased science.
Yeah, or somehow logic and mathematics is whiteness personified.
It's racist.
And it
yes,
just helps a white culture. It's just
science is racist.
You're eating away at not just cultures getting along together and people getting along together, but our actual understandings of the world. And it's just a rough time. I mean, one of the ones I followed was there's a libertarian thinker, Charles Murray. He's been doing some talks across different colleges and stuff because he does things on like welfare, the welfare state, and he actually had this book in the 90s trying to tackle ideas of why cultures are different and some of the genetic reasons for that as well as the social. And, he came at it at a completely neutral perspective. If you read the book, it's very clear, even though he thinks there's some biological reasons for differences between race that shouldn't affect how individuals treat one another, for instance. There shouldn't be just a white justice or a black justice. There should be just justice for good individuals. But he goes to these campuses and, they'll one of the people that invited him, a professor, got attacked like early, I'm wanting to say May, and then he went to another college in September, and it was a heckler's veto. They completely took over the stage. They just kept flashing various pictures, calling him a white nationalist, and you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a fascist and shit like that. And not a single one of them could even articulate one point from his book. at all or try to refute it. And it's just, that's the way it is. All we're going to get from any dialogue in the future and trying to mend things together is just witch hunts.
Yeah, and a big problem I've seen too is just the fact that you get into an argument and you have this nobody's a winner, nobody's a loser mentality, and so you have somebody that keeps bringing these failing beliefs or failing just in general just because there's no logic to what they're saying. It's inconsistent, and they all of a sudden, if you retaliate, it's hate speech, and then they either push you away or run away to their echo chamber to receive more confirmation bias. I think that's definitely part of the reason for just one more reason adding fuel to the fire on all this anger we're seeing is that people are no longer like with me, I had a bunch of flawed beliefs growing up, and you know that. And the thing is like you're one of the guys I'd have these debates with, and it wasn't just you, it was many other people. I'd have debates with other socialists, I'd have debates with capitalists, everybody. And I'd recognize, when they would call me out for my bullshit, I may push back and I may come up with whatever bullshit argument, but at the end of the day, I realized I'm having to make stuff up. What I'm saying is making me uncomfortable because I don't know what I'm talking about. So I research whatever I'm wrong about. I read that guy's book, for example, that I might have disagreed with and called a white nationalist, and realize, okay, I see where he's coming from. He's right. I'm not going to tell him, but I'm not going to be an idiot anymore. Now I'm educated, and now I can bring logic and principles into I'm arming myself intellectually, and I think if we can get more people to do that, and I try to help people understand, and I don't know if I'm like off-putting or what, but sometimes it sticks and sometimes it don't. I don't know. Godspeed to them, and I guess to me as well at the end of the day, because I have to deal with them if they don't learn up, All right, are we done with the tribulations? Can we get to the happy? And even then, it's not really happy. I'm pretty sure what I'm going to say is also inflammatory. I don't mean for it to be, but it's just like, sorry, it's good stuff. I hesitate to start with this. I'm going to do it just for reactions. One of the best things to happen this year, God, I sound all right. Trump's America first. I know it sounds bad. Hold up. Don't exit out of this yet. Let me justify this. The whole withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, for example, that's been helping our economy substantially. Cutting out more regulations like that, not only doing that, but also taking a stand and saying, we don't have to bend to the whim of the majority. We are who we are, and, we understand how things work. You're not going to come in and just strong arm us into whatever beliefs you have. I understand cooperation, but it gets to a point where you just become a doormat. And I really, looking at our history since, I don't know, the last decade, we've become a doormat. We're like the laughing stock. We still kind of are, but I mean, it's getting better. And that's one step towards it. We canceled the TPP. Which we had a video on that a long time ago. You can go over that. I'll get into the details of it. Cutting funding to hostile nations. Like recently, what was it? Was it Pakistan, right, that voted against us in one of these recent treaties? Like we're trying to recognize Israel.
Hostile countries in general, but the UN too.
Yeah. Why are we giving these countries money? Like, we need to fix our own shit. We're $20 trillion in debt. Stop it. So we cut that. We're cutting back on that. And then one of the bigger things for me is I can't stand the fact that we're still dumping money into a war. But at least we're at a point now where we have something to show for the $1 trillion a year budget we're putting into it. ISIS is beat back. When's the last time you heard about them? I mean, they're beaten back into non-existence. Last I read, they're beaten out of like 95% of the territories since the beginning of the year that they were originally occupying. Like, they're pretty much irrelevant at this point, when at one point they damn near completely invaded countries like Syria, Iran. They were just taken over and now gone. So go ahead, call me all right, Jake. Go ahead. Too much time on Gab, I know.
We'll talk about your goose stepping later. But anyways, I'm like lukewarm about that one because, I mean, again, with the whole America First thing and terrorism, for instance, okay, we've beaten them back, but I still, I don't want to be pessimistic or cynical, okay, but I still think of it as a fruitless war because as soon as we do anything to come back to it, I don't think there's enough people in the countries right now that can just organize and try to keep a democratic government. It's just, there's going to be a power vacuum. It's going to get subsumed again by, if not ISIS or ISIL or Hamas or anything else, it'll be some new bad guy. And, I'm sure the war drums will start beating again. But
there goes Jake pushing for democracy again, folks. Fucking statist.
Actually, I'm thinking more of democracy as in the political power with the people, not so much voting and all that. But anyways,
I got you. Yeah. Okay, moving on. We're fucking off too much.
But also, I think he's also a lot of the excesses of the America First ideas have also not taken fruit. He was big about tariffs while campaigning. He pretended like we didn't have tariffs already with other countries in trade, and he was talking about, oh yeah, China, we're going to take it to them. They've been bending us over so much, but I'm a winning man, and we're going to win against China now. And it's like, thankfully, tariffs haven't increased.
Right, yeah. That's one America First policy I'll go ahead and fucking throw off the table. I'm good with that. All right, Jake, tell me something good that happened last year.
I'm going to come out with one of the few positive things Trump actually did proactively, the Gorsuch nomination. So far, from what I've seen, both in his past and some of his more recent Supreme Court rulings, he's a constitutionalist and a balancing force when it comes to the whole setup we've got right now with the Supreme Court. I think he's going to be sticking to the Constitution no matter what, and a moderating force against both the eccentricities of right authoritarianism and left authoritarianism that seems to be active within the judiciary. So
I was so close to naming that one, but then I couldn't recall a single time like I heard about him passing anything. I was just too busy being caught up by the media on Trump's latest twit. So I was gonna put him though because I was so excited when that went through, and I don't know. I guess we'll see from here. It doesn't sound like he's done too much if you couldn't find that much that he's had to deal with. But it seems promising. I guess number 2 for me would be crypto. So glad about that this year. I ended up getting into it finally. I'm into cryptocurrency. All about that Nexus until the price spikes, and then of course I'm going to do a little bit of day trading. But at the end of the day, Nexus is where it's at. It's my coin of the week, folks. So go ahead and jump on that right now. And if it doesn't jump 50% by the end of the week, I'll eat my dick. How about that? No, but what? What's up?
And in case you weren't paid for advertising, this video may have been hacked at this point in time, and
yes, they had the technology.
An hacker came in and grossly misinterpreted your identity and philosophy with cryptocurrency and Nexus.
Yes. Yeah, actually, funny thing about it, we were even joking. It's like it seems like any crypto I get into does terribly, and then as soon as I leave, it just jumps up. But it's really at the end of the day, like the reason I stick through with it, anyways, is like it's not so much about the money. I've kind of come to realize like I'm never gonna get rich, and that's not how you should go into this thing at all. At the end of it all, like it's actually extremely promising technology, blockchain technology. You have to look into that. I still need to look more into it, but as far as I know, it basically takes the power of a lot of your currencies out of the centralized government or Federal Reserve, samesies if you ask me, and puts it back into the people. So no longer do you have a bank arbitrarily inflating the currency and waging these currency wars. Granted, it is extremely volatile right now. It's not stable. It's in its earlier phases. A lot of people trying to compare it to tulip trading, Dutch tulip trading. These people have no idea what blockchain technology is, so I wouldn't really pay them much mind. And yeah, there might be some bubbles in some of it, but I think eventually once it settles out, like I've already made several transactions actually. Like I sold a water filter to one of my friends for 2 Litecoin, and we joke about it because I sold it to him for 2, and at the time that was like around $210, and then it jumped up, and now it's like I got like basically sold it to him for 400. So, but I bought this T-shirt right here actually with Nexus. And at the time, I paid $20 for it, and now at this point, I've paid about $80 for this T-shirt. So, but it's like, it's what it's worth at the time. Do with it what you will. It's like the guy that bought the Bitcoin, the pizza for Bitcoin, 10,000 Bitcoin. He probably hung himself recently. I'm sure he did, but at the time, it was worth it. But yeah, I'm really excited about technology. Glad to see altcoins finally coming up. There's alternative coins to Bitcoin, so it's basically now you've taken currencies. If we've been having a huge problem with the U.S. dollar being inflated completely out of control to the point where it's damn near worthless, and the only thing backing it anymore is faith. And now we're providing alternatives. If you still believe in the dollar, if you still believe in the fiat, go ahead and stick to it. But if you have issues with it, and you want to be like a little more, say, private with it, and you don't like your stuff being taxed or the currency fucked with, definitely start looking into some crypto. But what's your thoughts on that, Jake? Jake's all about crypto too. Tell us.
I love the additional option. I mean, it's that's applying the free market to the actual things that you use to exchange for goods. But, government's trying to weasel its way in. And
yeah, which is why the tax bill, maybe not the greatest thing. Which we'll get to that in a minute, but I'll eat it. We'll find a way around it. That's the cool thing about crypto. But yeah, they're damn sure trying to get their grubby fingers on it, aren't they?
Yeah, and also I'm not that much of a trusting person. Sure, the government might not be able to screw around with someone's blockchain code, but what about the person that made the blockchain code?
Well, that's the cool thing is that it's kept on ledgers on multiple different computers. So like you have currencies, as far as I know, you have between 5 and 10 different computers storing ledgers that have to confirm who owns what. So you'd actually have to hack these computers simultaneously and hack their email addresses where they go on to confirm these transactions. It's an impossibility. They're looking into quantum computers right now, trying to make that a thing, but if you're able to hack Bitcoin, you're able to hack a fucking bank. So either way, I mean, and as we move towards a cashless,
talking about hacking, I was talking about if I came out with Jake Coin and I put it out there, what's to stop me from building in the code some sneakiness, some dubiousness?
Yeah, well, I don't know about all that, man. I haven't researched it that much, but what I do know is we are going cashless. You hear this talk about a cashless society, and what's funny is I hear all these people that freak out about, one world currency. We're going cashless. The government will track everything. But then you talk about crypto, and it's like, oh, it's just a bubble. It's not even real tulips. It's just like, what the hell, you know? We're trying to help you out here. It's the free market helping you out. But anyways,
You heard it here, folks. Brax, he's for the one world currency and one world power, right there.
that's why I'm invested in 3 different cryptos. All right, Jake, come on, number 2, let's go.
Yeah. Since you already hinted at it, I'm going to go ahead and say it. The tax reform. I'm pretty stoked about that. Not just because, for the most part, by the way, I already said earlier to everyone, I am going to do an update video on that, going over it. But the more I go over it, the more I like it just in general. Besides, I know Brax's point of contention that he's going to bring up, but but you know, the worst thing I can say that I can hear about it that consistently at least is valid is that, oh, well, they didn't keep the individual income tax brackets going past 2025. It's got to be voted in again. Okay. That's the worst you got.
Passed?
No, it's passed, but you know, all the tax changes, the tax bracket changes for individuals, you know, families and head of households, that's got to be revoted in 2025.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, okay. That's
and
right.
You know, I just found it also personally hilarious that the people that consistently say, "Oh, it's just going to be a tax cut for the rich and stuff," and we should just keep our taxes. Here. Yeah,
I'm saving $1,000 this year
so that we can spend. And the greatest complaint they can go with it is, well, they didn't go far enough with the tax cuts. They needed to make them permanent. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. The major criticism, you know, the people that damn the whole thing and say it's going to be the end of the world, one of their biggest criticisms of it is that it's not permanent.
Yeah, it's going to revert back to the system which would have cost them more anyways.
Right. And, you know, funny enough, I guess I'll add more to it because that was my number one also. Even taking into consideration the 30% capital gains taxes on crypto, it's still, like, for me, it's net positive. You know, I get to write off all those losses I made. But in all seriousness, though, I do get to keep an extra $1,000, and like I actually don't make that much. I'm actually like slightly above average on my income, and I'm getting $1,000 back. Kind of helps having a kid too. The 21% corporate tax we saw over the Christmas time. We saw all these companies handing out bonuses, people keeping their jobs. I think the bonuses was the coolest part. AT&T. $1,000 bonuses for everyone. Like, that was huge. And I think we're going to see benefits from it for a good while to come. So, you know, coming from the guy wearing the crypto shirt, even with the crypto taxes, this thing is still solid. I wish we could get rid of that part, though. Really, maybe I just don't file it. Oh, shit, there's evidence now. I'm on camera now saying this. So yeah, I totally agree with you, man. That pretty much wraps it all up for me. All my top 3 best and worst moments of 2017. You got any other final thoughts you want to throw in there?
Well, as far as the cultural war is concerned, it was kind of both a tribulation, but I think there's some triumphs involved in it too. You know, I see more people being aware at a common level that a lot of this crap that's being thrown around is inconsistent, and though, you know, I don't want it to polarize people, I like that awareness factor. I like that people are trying to and wanting to do something about it. You know, there's a lot in Canada, for instance, they passed that C-16 bill, which was a lot of whether
I
you
mean, I know what
think,
C16 is, but if you mind explaining for the viewers real quick, Jake, the
yeah, I
C16
was
bill.
about to get into it.
Okay.
Is they wrote this bill C16, and it was a large part of it was uh, formalizing in the criminal code that you can do hate crimes and stuff against those of different gender identities and expressions. But there was also a more personal, uh, civil aspect to it as far as relating to personal pronouns, and it
Yeah,
tied
also.
into their Canadian Human Rights Council group, where basically it's compelled speech. And there was a professor, Jordan Peterson, that got some flack for going, well, I don't want to use those pronouns, especially since I keep reading this bill and it seems so muddled, and then it's referring to this Human Rights Commission, which can suspend normal jurisprudence, meaning whatever the laws are, if it gets into that court, they can just pretend, okay, whatever, free speech, I don't care what those precedents are. Let's go with what we want to go with and go from there. And it's just a lot of Canadians are starting to wake up to that too. And I'm just hoping we don't go the way of, for instance, New York fining businesses if their employees don't use proper pronouns for like telethon ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely think the social justice warriors and the cultural Marxists out there are definitely overplaying their hand this year, which is why you say it's a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because things are already pretty chaotic as they are, and now they're adding to the fire. But I think as I have noticed this year more than ever before, people are politically involved. Like everybody's involved with it this year. There's like people seeing that there's a serious problems. They're trying to resolve it. And another phenomenon I've noticed is that people, even myself, all the time, I catch myself getting caught up in my emotions. I get so angry about something. I'm spun up from the media, from people who've been spun up by the media. It's viral. And I take it sometimes when I'm being smart and level-headed about it, I'll take a step back and I won't say anything for a few days. I'll calm down. And it's like a sobering moment. You get so drunk with emotions that you would say dumb things otherwise, and I have a couple times this year, a couple dumb conversations that I shouldn't have. But now I know, and I hope other people are starting to learn, is take a moment to sober up and then reassess, reevaluate, and see who's playing you. Are you even being played? And if you're being played, should you really trust these people? Those are the questions we need to be asking. And so that was the whole. I think they definitely overplayed their hands this year, and the people I think are starting to become aware of how ridiculous like pronouns. Like God's sake, you can't even think out loud anymore without being fined. Apparently, so that's about all I got. What about you, Jake?
That's it for me too. Are there any plans that we need to announce for any future videos right now, or how's that fundraising going?
So as far as the fundraiser went, we were just 1,000 short of the goal. I actually, it actually did so well. I kind of actually thought about just satisfying you sadistic bastard, because apparently the people have took note of the debate and they realized that organic food is the way to go and GMOs are toxic, and they love me so much that they didn't want to poison me. But there was a couple of sadistic assholes besides Jake out there, and to you, fuck off. So far as future, I'm just being the bad guy wrestler tonight. So far as future events, I don't really have any off the top of my head. I'm kind of still reeling from the holidays, so I'm not gonna put anything out. I got a few short videos I do want to do. I'm still finishing up that series. It's taken forever. I mean, it was this time last year I announced the beginning of it. I made 3 of them, and I'm still got like 2 to go. That's going to come down to its conclusion, how we're all going to be rendered obsolete by machines. So I have a few short videos I'd like to do. Just basically just talking about simple things like the art and science of critical thinking was the ones that I was actually talking with you about and trying to get some input. I might have you on it. It's up to you, I guess, kind of at the end of the day. But just shorter videos. I mean, here we are at 40 minutes. I don't even know if anybody made it this far, and if you have, kudos. But
they like us. They really like us.
All three of them. So yeah, that's about all I got planned. What about you, huh?
Well, like I said, I gotta do the update video for the income tax reform since now it's finalized. Solid numbers. I've been going over those figures and stuff. You know, it's only around 500 pages, but and
I need that on my desk by the end of this week, Jake.
But other than that, I might put out 1 or 2 videos by myself. You know, do something different.
I feel it allows this. Maybe we have a contest of some sort to see who can get the most views. That could be fun. I love contests. All right. Well, thanks again for tapping into Critical Thoughts, breaking through the white noise to bring you the media that matters.